I'm walking across the you go the other way.
No, no. I'm on vacation, you know?
You can be as loud as you want.
Rachel, when I put my earbuds on for this, will it just sort of take over like it does on the phone?
Let's see.
How do I know I can do that? Hi, Jeffrey. Oh, yeah, it does. Jeffrey?
How are you?
Hello?
Where are you?
I'm in Cape Cod.
Oh, where are you? We're in Providence.
I'm in Falmouth.
Oh, we were just there yesterday, driving through.
Oh, really? Where are you now?
In P-Town.
Oh, okay.
Come
I'll show you
down.
where- You're down, you're not, you're okay, so you're a couple hours from me.
Come
Can I
on
get-
down.
Oh, I'm loving it here. Let me show you my view. Okay? Let's see, can you see it?
Yes.
Can you see my view?
Yes. Come
swimming
on
pool.
down.
Now, you should see this house I'm in. Oh my God. This house is like amazing.
It might be.
It is.
What is it? An Airbnb?
No, it's, this is someone who's got probably a $3 million house that she rents out very selectively. And I found her last year and I rented it, and, it's got 8 bathrooms and
Is
You
there a
know.
visitor at the door?
not at all. No, this is not what you call a Jewish establishment. Okay.
Oh my God.
I don't know if there are any Jews in Falmouth actually, but why are you wearing a shirt and tie for this meeting?
Of course.
Jeez.
This is all being recorded.
I know. Okay, sorry. I'll behave myself.
This is
But
all
I
being
think
recorded. So hopefully, Matt, we'll have to tell Matt to cut it out to at the beginning
How long are you down here for?
till Friday, and then I'm going to the vineyard
No, you're busy.
till Monday.
Did you drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did too. Yeah, we'll probably go home on Saturday. We're done in the house here on Saturday, and then Daniel was getting a new car, and we were gonna take him there possibly. And now he may not be getting it until next week, so I'll come home on Saturday. But
Well, you
Miss
look
Mike.
like a council member. You're all dressed up.
oh no, I'm not. I am wearing basically workout pants below, okay, and a
Do you have
seemingly
any
nice
you don't
t-shirt.
you don't have any diamonds on?
I have none on. I don't even have earrings on. I have no. I usually wear earrings, or I have a ring on, but
Oh, there's
no
Matt.
jewelry. There's Matt.
Okay.
Okay.
Matt, we have to first of all, you need to rename Debbie as council member, and also
Oh, maybe shouldn't I do
you-
that?
if you can put council member Debbie Heller, because remember this is
Right.
Matt. You need to
Wait a second. I'm not sure.
when you
Oh,
get
there.
this
Thank you, Matt.
recording, you
Matt
need
did.
to eliminate the first few minutes because we were having inappropriate conversations.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. All right.
Yeah, I told
I'll-
Jeffrey
I'll
he didn't have
start
to
it
wear a
just at-
tie.
I'll start it at 5.
Okay, I told Jeffrey he didn't have to wear a tie, and I don't know what you're doing in a tie. It's
That
summer.
was before, right?
Both
you better
Jeffrey
go
and
get
I
some
are in
liquor.
Cape Cod. So,
Is
I
that where you are, Mr. Mayor, Cape Cod?
Yeah. But
Me
X all
too.
this off of the X all this out of the recording
Okay, will do.
because we're not allowed to be on vacation because we work all the time.
That's right. You're on 24/7, 365.
Right.
no, me, I am on vacation, okay? I am sitting here looking out at the most magnificent view. And just before I was in the hot tub and the swimming pool. So all is
Sound like
good for me.
you got your priorities straight.
You bet. You bet. So no complaints from me. It's really
I
gorgeous
see.
here.
I see. Ron is on.
Been raining on and off here all day, as
Yeah.
per usual.
Yeah. Well, here there's no humidity today. It's fabulous.
Where are you,
very
Mr.
happy.
Mayor?
I'm in Provincetown, Mass,
Oh, cool.
the LGBT capital of America. Right, Debbie?
Right. It's where COVID spreads.
No, it's that.
It's definitely
That
where
is-
COVID spreads.
That
Ask
was
my
the most.
husband. Ask
First of
my
all-
husband.
First of all, the
Yes.
numbers here are down to way below normal, and that was just another bad reporting job by
Okay.
U.S. journalism.
I'll set it straight. My husband, who got COVID, got it off our rabbi, who was in P-Town, okay? And he spread it to, Jamie was patient number 6 at our shul, okay? So, and there were 7 people that got COVID from him. But no hard feelings.
I don't know if that was
It was the case, believe
verified
me.
by Dr. Fauci. No,
No. We just know
that's
where
just
it
a
came from.
rumor. That's just a
No.
rumor.
No, I don't know about that.
It's a rumor.
Oh. Anyway, it's gorgeous here. I don't want to come home. I'm 2 hours from Jeffrey. He's further than me. I'm at the tip of the Cape. He's at the other tip.
Cape is well represented by Somerset.
I could move here. I could.
We're supposed to be vacationing in Maryland.
Really? Is that in the bylaws? Let's ask the lawyer.
Yes. Okay, I see. I don't see our council president.
Not yet.
Maybe he hasn't arrived in Cape Cod yet. Do we need a quorum here in Cape Cod? Hey, Jacob.
Yeah?
One of our council members is Robin Barr.
Oh, yeah.
You could wave hello.
In my bathing suit? Is that appropriate attire?
I think he's seen you in a bathing suit before.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Jacob. I hear you in the
Jacob.
background.
Jacob, say hello. Jacob, say hello.
Hi. I'll mention to Matt that I found you. Yes, all right.
Jacob is my number 3 son. Number 2 is on his way down. He's putting on a bathing suit.
That would be order of birth, not importance.
Right, order of birth, not importance.
I'm glad that was clarified. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, well, let's see. Number 2 son is about to march by also. So,
Okay, I don't see our council president.
he's
Somebody
coming.
texted him, emailed him, whatever.
He knows this at 5.
Maybe he was detained on a call. Because, 5 o'clock I know is tight for him. I appreciate you doing that for me, actually.
Matt, do you want to
Yeah,
text him?
I'll try to.
Meanwhile, I can show you all my view of the water off the house I'm in. Can you see?
Can I ask a
There's
question?
over there.
Can I ask a question that's not related to vacations? This is Nat Finkelstein. I see on your agenda that you're dealing with the ambulance service.
Thi-
And I'm sort of curious as to who is going to be dealing with that issue.
Okay, this is not an open meeting, Nat, so you'll just have to listen.
Okay, so while we're waiting, can I understand, do I need to be here? Does somebody from Bethesda need to be here?
No, nobody needs to be here.
Debbie, where are you in Cape Cod?
I'm in Falmouth. It is,
So jealous. That looks amazing.
it is. I found this house last year and I've never been more comfortable in a home. I could buy this house in a second, but I can't have a house in Cape Cod when I live in Maryland.
Yeah.
But it is very beautiful and the swimming pool is amazing. So I'm feeling rather fortunate.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and I have, my husband is here with me, of course, and 2 of my 3 kids and my daughter-in-law, so life is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no complaints from me.
Okay, so Matt, I just texted him.
Yeah, I did too. He just, I think he'll be on in just a second here.
Oh, good. Okay, good. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order so that, here's our president. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order and I'm going to, before I turn it over to the council president, I would like to ask our manager to please read the disclaimer.
Yes, just a reminder to everybody that this meeting is being recorded. So just a reminder to any participants and all residents. So we will post this recording on the town website and on the town's YouTube page. If this meeting does get interrupted, I will immediately end the call and send out instructions via email on how to rejoin. And other than that, take it away, Mr. Council President, I guess.
Unmute. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Apologies for some technical issues there. I think part of the problem is my work laptop won't let me access Zoom, so I have to manually enter everything into my iPad. I can't click on any of the links. And then there's just general operator error problems. But we've got a lot to cover, so let's dig into it. The first thing, and first, we'd like to get through all of the old business and the new business, and then if we have time, there's some other topics. I'm happy to try and dig into them also. Question of committee protocol and surveys. This came to mind with the very recent swimming pool survey, and I noticed it seems like we use different survey software, and there are different processes for improving surveys. Matt, can you provide a little bit of background?
Yeah, sure. So this is more broadly speaking, this is a follow-up of the item that we had discussed at the last meeting that sort of goes over committee protocols. And then with regards to surveys, I think recently the pool committee had a survey to try to gauge residents' interest in keeping the pool open later, and some other things. And we've kind of gone back and forth in trying to find the sweet spot for surveys in terms of not having the council have to get bogged down with the minutia of editing every survey and going through every single question. But at the same time, making sure that residents aren't inundated with different surveys from a lot of different committees. And so just sort of figuring some way out and maybe some protocol for ensuring that we do kind of try to thread the needle on that. I added something to this that said towards the end. Committees may create surveys and develop other fact-finding materials. The council may, at their discretion, develop editing and or review processes that require council approval for any materials that are used in an official capacity. So I don't know if that's sufficient on its own, or if you all want to discuss further processes that you'd like to see. If it's as simple as the committee sending it to the council, and unless 2 council members object, then the committee can submit it to me to disseminate on the town's email. I'm just sort of spitballing and throwing out ideas though, so.
So I think, and I'm looking forward to hear what other folks think about this. I'm a big believer in supporting the role of our committees, and I'd rather not have the council interject itself into the proper functioning of the committees and micromanaging what the committees do. I'm happy to have the committees work directly with the town manager to post surveys. I think we should aim for some level of standardization in surveys, the same software and the same general approach or format. And we can probably evolve that a bit over time. And there's one particular issue that came up in the past about surveys. Since these surveys that we're talking about are being produced by committees, that means they're being produced by the town government. And that means that all of the responses are fully disclosable. So there is no, it's not like people are voting and have a right to privacy. If people respond to a survey, and the survey asks for their address or something like that, that's all divulgeable if somebody were to ask for that information. And I think this particular survey for the swimming for the pool incorrectly indicated that all the responses would be kept confidential. And any thoughts or questions?
Well, I mean, I've seen a number of surveys come through, and some of them, frankly, are better designed than others. And I'm wondering if we could perhaps ask the Communications Committee if they would like to take on a role of reviewing draft surveys and providing feedback to them. So it is involving committees. Again, it is Communications Committee. They generally have good editing experience on them. So they might be a good committee to look at them. If they're interested, I hasten to add, because.
Well, I think it's what you all decide is the process, not if the committee's interested. Because it's not up, it's up to all of you to decide how you want to handle surveys. And if you wanted to go to the Communications Committee, then that's your judgment. I mean, remember, this has to be, which are coming up with some is to add to the draft, and then once it's put out for consideration, then the communications committee could weigh in,
Mhm.
and whether that's how you want to do it. But it's not to add, unless you want to ask them before you submit the final draft for approval. But I'm not sure that. I think that adds an extra level of maybe bureaucracy to it,
Well,
Right,
it's quite, I mean, it's what others feel, obviously.
you know.
But having seen
it's
the
up to all of
different
you.
quality of the surveys, we've actually seen, I think, an extra level of editorial review would serve as well, actually.
I agree. I just don't want us to get bogged down in it.
I don't think it's fair to ask the communications committee to do it. I just, I think it's putting them in the middle. And it's one thing to say that, Matt has to eyeball it and say all is okay. There's nothing outrageous in it. And, but to ask another committee to weigh in on a committee's work, I think is way too cumbersome.
Other
The
thoughts?
bottom line question is whether you want to allow committees to put out their own surveys without your review or not. Because that was what the concern is, that, for example, with the Stormwater Management Committee, I think they felt that adding that extra review was going to make it not as timely as they wanted it to be. Probably the same with the Pool Committee. So, but now you're trying to decide what the process is.
I think that, the committee should be, I like what Steve said. I feel like the committee should be able to do that within their committee.
I agree.
And then maybe have like a survey, like maybe we set up like a survey on, just like a bullet point that says like all our surveys are not, confidential. Just have like a standard remark on each survey that people just add in for the committees.
I think the point, that makes a lot of sense. I think the point that Matt is bringing up is that the survey is produced by the manager and staff, not the committee makes the request for the staff to put out the survey, but we don't want to burden the committees with doing all that work to put it out, do the administrative. So the question is, before the manager puts out the survey, do you want there to be council review, or do you want the town manager to have some kind of oversight over these surveys? This is what you're trying to decide right now.
Right.
What you need to decide right now.
I think any resident or group of residents can survey another group of residents in town. I mean, I conducted a survey. That's not a government survey. It's a personal endeavor, and we are free to do that. Anyone is free to do that. Committees are formed by the mayor's discretion and are to inform the council, the town manager, and the mayor on policies. And so if a survey that is suggested or recommended or is part of the committee's work is really a government survey that goes out to the town and is subject to government rules. My preference would be that we just clarify what those rules are upfront among ourselves and not interject each time there's a survey. And I think the town manager is capable to then follow those rules. And so I think there have been a number of surveys recently, so we've just kind of have some recent experience that we can build on to be smart about these moving forward. So your point, Steve, about what will be disclosed and what will not be disclosed, I suspect we're all learning that at some level, and we're good to kind of have rules of engagement for Matt to follow. And I think there's a degree of informality with some committees where they might directly write to the town. Maybe we can change that moving forward. And that comes directly from manager's office rather than from a committee chair email. and
Yeah.
so on.
I like having it be if it's something that a committee is doing, I like having it come from the town manager that provides a certain formality and rigor to the process. So perhaps the near-term action is for me to review the draft protocol, the status of the draft committee protocol that Matt's been working on. And maybe we can plan to update a little bit with some information based on comments people have made here and discuss the draft at our next work session.
Sure.
I agree.
Okay, great. Make sure, is that okay with you, Matt?
That's great. Yep, thank you.
Okay. Next item is food truck ordinance. I know that Shannon and Debbie, you did a little bit of investigation work. Can you give us an update on where we stand?
Well, what we did was we created a 9-point document, basically, that lays out the rules and regulations for the food trucks. And I just needed everyone to look at them to tell me what makes sense or doesn't make sense. And especially, Matt Trollinger, he weighed in on some of these things and gave some suggestions, but I need to make sure it's all okay, and then you guys need to tell me if you like it or not, or you want us to tweak it some more, or go around and taste all the food from the food trucks. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Have you guys read it?
Yeah.
Do you need me
apologize.
to,
I have not.
do you need me to quickly go over it?
Could you please actually just?
Sure. Okay.
And we've got a few
Okay.
minutes.
All right. It's not a lot. It goes quickly. All food trucks will need a permit that will be given out without charge by the town manager or his designee. Okay. And permits should be applied for 10 days in advance. Simple. Number 2, food trucks are required to get and show proof of all legal permitting and licensing at the county and state level. So we just don't have rogue trucks coming through that have no, bearing on, cleanliness or whatever, that they haven't followed the rules. Number 3, food truck permits can be given to town residents or town organizations like the swim team, that sort of thing. When I say residents, we'll talk about that a little further down, okay? Food trucks may be parked at the pool, the tennis parking lot, or in a resident's driveway, but no street parking. The idea of it being in a resident's driveway is if they're having a party and they decide their caterer is the food truck, but they're not selling food, they're just having catering, basically. It could be like any catering truck that might be in your driveway. 5, food truck hours are from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., except for swim team and pool functions that require an earlier start time. The swim team needs it earlier because they just got to show up earlier because they got to be ready for noon when I guess the swim meets are over. Residents cannot host a food truck in their driveway to conduct business. 7, under no circumstances can a food truck block traffic or close down a street. Trucks may not block sidewalks and it must abide by all other parking rules, i.e. hours, distance from fire hydrants, intersections, etc. 8, the food truck establishment is responsible for taking away the garbage. That was the only thing I wondered about. We can talk about that, but I think they should have to take away the garbage. 9, the only roaming through the neighborhood food truck is an ice cream truck. And that's it. Simple.
Debbie, did you get a chance, and Shannon, did you get a chance to talk to Russell Green?
Yes, he
Okay.
actually gave me some of this stuff. I heard from Russell. I heard from Matt Zaft. I heard from what's his name? Jeff Mascott. I think he weighed in. I'm pretty sure he weighed in. I did this a while ago now, but I'm pretty sure he weighed in. Yeah, definitely had a conversation with Russell, and he wrote me some very thoughtful notes, actually.
I have two questions. One,
Sure.
what does it mean to give a permit to a town resident? I suppose that you're keeping that scenario in mind if you're catering or,
I don't know, that's what I wasn't sure about. You
Yeah.
know, I don't get a permit if I have one of the major caterers or any of the caterers. If Balducci's came to cater, they would park in my driveway and bring the food in, or maybe cook food in my backyard or even in my garage. I think we've all seen that kind of thing. I don't get a permit for that. So maybe we don't need town residents who are putting
Yeah.
a food truck in their driveway to get a permit. Maybe that should be taken out.
yeah, that was the line of thinking I had as well. And then the other is, there is a cost to Matt's team to do this.
Sure.
Do we
But-
recover that cost?
What do you
No.
mean there's a cost to his team?
His time, someone has to
Do we
review.
charge for the permits is the question.
Yeah, should we
Oh,
charge?
I thought you meant
Matt
Matt.
Trollinger, sorry,
Okay,
the
sorry.
Matt on this call. I don't think Zaft is on, but
Well, I mean, I'll just like, as far as like the food trucks and like for the swim team events and the couple of events that have been hosted by or for the extra hour that they get, these food trucks really, like, my understanding is that they really have to kind of beg them to come here. And because we don't offer like the volume placement, like these food trucks have a certain amount of business that they require to do in an evening. And so that's why everyone's trying to get everyone to come down and buy food out of these food trucks. So they'll want to come back. I think that if we were to charge a fee for it, we don't want to make it that much more difficult to jump through hoops in order to get this food truck that, arguably doesn't necessarily want to come out here anyway. I mean, the swim teams are a little different because like they have enough volume there. And so they're more apt to come. But these food trucks that have been at the pool for the past couple of Friday nights have a little bit, it's a little bit more like it's kind of I'm not going to say a favor for us, but, they have to really work to get these food trucks to come.
Right.
so the proposal is sort of some light oversight.
It is a light oversight, exactly. And I don't think this is going to be such a big deal. I don't know how many food trucks have we had this summer, and they've really all come from the pool in some way. Am I right? So I think it's a matter of, Matt deciding how he wants this to be received, through a form or an email, whatever, when it comes to like the swim team or the pool. I just don't think this is going to be a major drain on time. And if it is, then we have to readdress it.
Mhm.
Let me ask about ice cream trucks for a moment. The only mention is in number 9.
Right.
It looks like, by the way you've written it, ice cream trucks will not require a permit. Is that correct?
Right. They just sort of, these guys are small potatoes, they come cruising. How often are they even in our neighborhood? I can't remember the last time I even heard an ice cream truck come through.
I heard the other day, right before, it's always right before we're trying to get my kid to eat dinner.
Maybe there
It's
should be a
good.
law against that.
It's good that you have a freezer,
All right, and so we're not concerned that they might sell peanuts as well as ice cream, which is food, of course.
No, I think they're just ice cream trucks, And if people complain about the ice cream trucks, then I think we readdress it.
All
We
right.
take a look at it, and then we decide, how do we police it? I put a sign at the
Right.
front of the neighborhood.
Well,
say
these
no.
are the questions you want to ask. Okay, so remember, council, tonight you're deciding whether you want to charge the town attorney with drafting an ordinance related to food trucks and what you want him to put in it. And you can also ask him questions now about penalties and things like that. I've heard a lot of good questions and issues raised that perhaps he could answer. And then you need to decide whether you're ready to have him draft something that will then go through the legislative process. But I'm very impressed with the work that council members Heller and Rovak did on this.
Yep, most
you.
appreciated.
My pleasure.
It was Debbie. I was like, this big.
Don't put yourself down, Councilor Rovak.
No, she helped me. No, we did this together. Thank you. Yeah.
What I'm hearing is a lot of support for this approach overall, to have some sort of light regulation, to allow food trucks in the town, to have some light regulation of them, to ensure that they're properly certified or licensed. And my takeaway is at this point, at least for starters, we would not charge any fee. As we'll be talking about later, we're looking at standing up a Ways and Means Committee. They may come up with a different recommendation, but we can revisit the question. Ron, do you have enough information here to draft some proposed language for the town code?
Yes, I do. I had prepared a draft just addressing food truck operation within town parks, amending current language that we have. I'm hearing there's also an interest in perhaps regulating what trucks are allowed to drive through the town as well. I don't believe the town has the authority to regulate what trucks do on private property. That would be a land use regulation that the county would have to adopt, but the town can regulate its own streets.
I had a question in a similar vein. I was curious if Debbie and Shannon, if you were envisioning this only to pertain to food trucks on specific town properties, like the town, or to only permit them to be on town properties, or if, for instance, somebody wanted to have a food truck parked outside their house in the street.
For like a block party or something.
Right, like a block party sort of thing. If that's something separate, if that is wrapped up into this, or if that is not permitted, and we're saying they're only permitted on town facility.
I think if we don't, draw a line and say people's driveways, the parking lot, the tennis parking lot, the pool parking lot, then it's just going to be a slippery slope. And I think if somebody parked a food truck outside your house, let's think about our neighbors. What would our neighbors say about having a food truck outside the house? I don't think it'd be a very welcome event on the street. If you put it in your driveway, that's your business, but I don't think it belongs on our streets for a block party even. I don't think our streets are wide enough to really accommodate this easily. Shannon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that, even if you had a block party, perhaps someone would be able to park the food truck in someone's driveway.
Right.
For that. I know that the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, I believe, was looking at some kind of food fair. This would fall. And so that's why we kind of had added into like the tennis courts for that, because, if there's ever an event that it happens at the town council that, they could bring in a food truck for that, or, something like that event. And then the catering would be really more just like a catering function. If someone wanted to have a food truck at their own house. I'm not sure I answered the question, but.
I think it's hard to think about every scenario. There could be a scenario where it's on the street, right in front of someone's house. It's not obstructed. But I think this initial attempt, it's reasonable to restrict it to the driveway, and let's live through, move forward. And if there are unique instances where people want to do something that's on the street, we can hear them out and see whether we need to consider that. But I think it's reasonable from my perspective to restrict it on the driveway for now. I'm sure it
agree.
will cover most use cases.
I agree.
Same.
Right, and we're in agreement that parking trucks on a driveway is on private property and would not be part of this regardless.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Then let's move on to, we'll ask Ron to do that as part of the proceedings of this meeting. And the next topic is Stormwater Study Committee and the Stormwater
I'm sorry,
Ordinance.
can I ask one clarifying question
Yes.
before we move on? I'll make it quick, but would you like now to have a piece of a code amendment from Ron for consideration at the next work session, or just a code amendment that basically incorporates the suggestions that they had brought and that the council has just agreed on for introduction?
Right, you remember,
Mhm.
if three of you vote to have the town attorney draft an ordinance, that's one road you can take. You could also ask him to draft something that you will then discuss at the September work session. So I think that's what Matt's question is.
Right,
You want him to draft something that someone would introduce in September, or what, that's the question.
my preference would be for us, for drafting it, for us to discuss at the September work session to introduce at the meeting in October. I don't believe there's any particular urgency. And it just seems to be a healthy process to let us talk things through before we actually vote on them.
Sounds good to me.
So that answers your question, right, Matt?
Yes, yep, thank you.
Stormwater ordinance.
Right.
Robin and Kabir have been working on this. Do you have an update?
Robin, do you want to go?
I'll start it. I mean, you've had the interim recommendations from the Stormwater Committee for some time now, and Matt did post that to the agenda here. And first of all, they are interim recommendations. In other words, this is a initial coverage for new construction, but it doesn't at all address renovation.
17.
Those are coming later. It is defined around the 1-year storm event of 2.6 inches, which is the Maryland Stormwater Manual amount of rainfall that expected in a 1-year storm in our part of the country. And what it says is that you are supposed to, if you're a builder, design interventions that will retain 2.6 inches of water from your rooftop. And the other part of it is that you are required to make driveways out of permeable material. There's a third process side to it, which is that there should be a pre-meeting with the town manager to go over, so the town manager can explain our rules on construction and on stormwater drainage and learn what the plans are for the builder or the owner who's putting up the property. Kumar, what have I forgotten?
All of that is the sort of the meat of the drafted ordinance that's in the packet, which I suspect not everyone has had a chance to click through. Let me also just catch everyone up on process. So what we did is we decided to have a few conversations with folks with a background in engineering. So with Doug, for instance, and then with OPIA, is that right? The firm,
OIPA.
OIPA, sorry. OIPA, the Chevy Chase, the firm that handles these matters for the town of Chevy Chase. Sorry?
So to think beer, IPA, and I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I just drove through Michigan, so I know what you're talking about. And so we did that to kind of get us, ask them the path we are on, where we want people to manage water on their property, all of the roof runoff on their property, for example. Is that reasonable? Are they going to be able to do it? Is it going to lead to unending variance hearings for us, and so on? And so we had those conversations, and we came away with a mixed view, if I may put it that way, Matt and Robin. So the proposal that we have, which is very close to the recommendations from the Stormwater Committee, and the Stormwater Committee members joined us in our conversation with Doug, in fact, is very close to their recommendations, which says we would like town residents to be able to manage the roof runoff, and we would want town residents to build a permeable driveway with certain specifications that's in the draft ordinance. And our thinking is that will advance the management of stormwater and runoff on property. And the conversations with especially OIPA left us with the view that it will probably improve, but not likely significantly. So it's definitely a positive step, not a negative step. But it's possible it might end up just being a 5 to 10% improvement. I think that's what Matt captured in his notes, which he shared with you in the packet materials. And what's their thinking is that today, the way the county rules work, and Robin, please correct me because I get turned around in all of this, is that they are, even though they're not necessarily targeting roof runoff, because they're targeting the 2.6 inches, it ends up largely covering roof runoff. And so in meeting those county requirements, even with the variances, you're kind of capturing mostly the roof runoff. So when we narrow ourselves in our draft ordinance on roof runoff, we may not cover much more. We will probably improve it by having that specifications, but we are probably not going to cover much more. Am I making sense? Robin, do you want to?
Yeah, right. I mean, there's a little bit more to say about the county, but what the Stormwater Committee suggested to us, and I think is reasonable, is that if people design to that 2.6-inch standard for rooftops, then they will actually go through the county relatively easily, because that's going to cover what the county, in fact, is looking at. And that's probably the most important thing to know. So that's where we are. All right.
And Shannon, before your question, one quick other background statement before your question. The one thing that I think we have achieved, thanks to Ron and the conversations we had in the draft ordinance, is what Robin was summarizing, is I think pretty good language on what concurrent review looks like in practice. I think the language that we have now, which is on page 4, and then the language on what we're calling a code compliance informational meeting. We could call it a design informational meeting, something without the word compliance in it. Either way, those two sets of languages, I think, is a good step in the right direction that we all felt confident about. So that's another quick background note as part of this overall process. And then we had a thought that came out in conversations with the Stormwater Committee, that if we are requiring these stormwater management plans, maybe we want to create incentives for folks to do a building process that is very strictly within the code, which doesn't necessarily seek variances. So could we create a different process for non-variance building permits. And Ron has kindly laid out what kinds of changes we would need in the ordinance to create a separate process, maybe a more accelerated process or somewhat bifurcated or variegated process for non-variance permits. So that's the full background. And Shannon would love to hear your questions.
No, I was just, I was questioning like that 2.6 like inch, amount for Montgomery County. Cause like, I know for this house next to me, like they suggest that like, you know, although the 2 inches cannot be achieved. So their plan for this house was nothing around 2.6. It was only 2.
Yeah, right. So let me fill you in there. 2.6 inch is the maximum that the county standard. And it varies between 1 inch and 2.6 inches. And the way it varies is the nature of the soil on the property. So if it's highly permeable soil like sand, then they'll allow only 1 inch of capture because they know that the ground is going to capture the rest of it by itself. But if it's impermeable, like clay, then they'll go up to the 2.6 or somewhere close to the 2.6 because the ground is not going to capture it. So when they were talking about the 2 inch or whatever the number was, that was what their soil gave them. It was somewhat permeable. Therefore, the ground was going to take some off the water, but not totally permeable. Therefore, it was more than 1 inch. And that's how they came up with that 2 inches.
Okay.
So Shannon, in that case, and I'm thinking out loud, and Robin and Matt, you can correct me, but if we use that as a test case against this draft ordinance, they would need to change the design to meet the roof runoff requirements.
Yeah.
And they would have had to build a permeable driveway.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in my lovely house next door, so their runoff, like to me, I don't care if they make it a permeable driveway or not. Like I want them to contain their water, and however they choose to do it is fine by me, as long as they're, you know, within, like if they don't get past like the Montgomery waiver system, you know, like, so I think it's the MEP or, you know, however, there's like 5 or 6 different ways for them to contain water, which one of them is a permeable driveway, but I don't know that I would say it has to be.
No, what we are saying is all water from your roof, you need to contain it up to 2.6 inches. You can use whatever method. We are not prescribing the method. On top of that, we are saying for your driveway, it has to be permeable. So it's, you know, both of those two together, we hope to have the added effect of reducing runoff more than what is happening now, given the permitting history we've experienced. That is effectively very consistent with the Stormwater Committee's recommendation.
Yeah, it's not clear that this rule would have stopped Keating's design. I'm hoping that the pre-meeting would have changed its design a bit in conversation. The reason why I'm saying it's not clear that it would have stopped it is because we do have to, and we have built into the code within 5 feet of the house, it cannot be permeable, because the problem is that that runs into the basement of the house if you've got a permeable driveway that close to the house. And that's what Keating was saying, that he couldn't put his driveway, make it permeable because it was too close to the house, that therefore it had to be impermeable. And he would have used that argument against this rule, in fact, given what we're saying here. So it's not going to solve all problems, you know, that's the illustration, but it does put us on the map, and it does say to people, we can start a conversation, and Matt can have that conversation with them.
Yeah, I think we are doing, by introducing the concurrent review and this compliance informational meeting, we are introducing new steps in the process that will have an impact across the building permit procedures that we go through, including stormwater. So those two are pretty significant. And then additionally on stormwater, I think we are taking a step forward. The OIPA meeting left me with, and Robin and I went for a walk after that to try and digest that, left me with, questions on the effectiveness of all of these interventions.
The meeting was an intensive tutorial for all of
It
us.
was, but I am of the view that it will be a net positive. It will most likely, Shannon, I would be quite confident saying would have altered the design of what's happening next door to you, in a positive way in terms of managing stormwater. So, but it is not the full measure. And one of the things that Robin and I have discussed is, we need to be very smart about specific soil capabilities. And so right now, it turns out one of the ways in which the variance game is played at the county level is that even if there's clay, you get a variance. You're allowed because clay is, but your soil could be a mixture. It could have degrees of absorption. So we can be much more sophisticated about that. And I think the LIDC study, right, Matt and Robin will give us all of that data.
Right, and also the point is the town of Chevy Chase is much more sophisticated. In fact, they have a soil test as part of their review, whereas the county doesn't. They just have, if your soil is clay, then you get an exception, a waiver, bang, that's it.
So in a subsequent version of this ordinance, or in the next attempt at introducing, once let's say we agree on this one and we want to do more, we could require targeted soil testing rather than and with like 2 samples per site, rather than what's going on now. But remember, this
right. And if we don't do that, we're going to get the variance requests coming into us. It's clay soil, therefore we can't do this.
We cannot do it.
It'll come to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the county tested the soil next door to me. They don't have any record of it.
No, there are GIS records. They just look it up and say it's clay there, therefore you can't have dry wells because of that. So therefore we'll give you a waiver.
And OIPA were very forthcoming about that. They are representing a property at Somerset right now, and they have followed a process for a waiver using the clay soil argument. So, it's well-established process. It's a reasonable process, but it doesn't have the degrees of sophistication that I think is possible if we did soil testing, and which I think we can, if we wanted to go beyond what this draft ordinance is aiming to achieve.
So what are the next steps?
Unfortunately, Robin and I'm on vacation, didn't have a chance to confer prior to this call. So I'm going to share my view, Robin, and would love your view. My view is that it would be good to take, I would recommend that we consider this language at the next meeting, because it will be a meaningful step forward. I'm not yet clear on whether it will, as Robin put it aptly, it will put us on the map. Not sure what the true material impact it would be given the OIPA meeting. I think it will take us forward, but it may not be that kind of radical change that we are hoping for on stormwater management, but it would put us on the path for it. So with all of those caveats in mind, I would recommend we consider this draft language. Additionally, I strongly believe we should have a separate process for non-variance building permits to create incentives for all of us as residents to follow the code. Let me put it bluntly. It's a way to incentivize following the code. So we limit the kinds of flagrant violations or extensions that we've seen over time. So as we kind of restrict the code, stormwater as an example, we create a bifurcated process to create incentives to follow the slightly more restricted code. And Ron has done some good thinking on that we could consider as part of this as well. So those are my thoughts. I don't know what you think, Robin.
Right. A couple of points there. One is that I think we can vote for this to be added to our code and see it as an interim step forward, that there is more to do beyond this. And the Stormwater Committee knows that and are working towards it. Kumar's brought up another point, which is to incentivize people to avoid variances. And I think that is another idea to give to the Stormwater Committee, but not to build into this code at the moment, Kumar, is what I'm saying. In other words, that when we come back and we've looked at it, we can decide if that's the appropriate incentive to give to non-variance, or if there are other ways we can incentivize people. But I would say keep it the way it is just now, get that code approved, and then back to the Stormwater Committee for more. And a message to the Stormwater Committee is we've got to build soil tests in, as the town of Shepherd Chase has done.
Ron, any thoughts from you?
Well, Robin raised a couple questions by email that I can go ahead and answer.
Go ahead.
Robin asked whether if we wanted to require soil testing or borings, whether that should be in the code or could be in administrative regulations. I would recommend putting that in the code, because administrative regulations are really only supposed to administer the code. And if it's not in the code, there's always an argument that the regulations exceed the authority in the code. So if we want that, I should recommend.
I would suggest it to the Stormwater Committee to add it to the final code, not to have it in this version.
Okay. And then secondly, do we need to submit the draft to county council for comment? And the answer is yes, because it does relate to our building regulations. So under the Regional District Act, after we introduce an ordinance, we give it to the county council at least 30 days before the Somerset Council hearing, so that the county council has an opportunity to provide us comments if desired. In my experience, comments from the county council are very rare. You know, we might just get a letter saying, thank you, we've received the draft and we have no comments.
Okay, so, but that means that we probably can't get it on our September agenda. We'd have to move to October agenda for that delay. Is that right?
No,
Well,
just to clear, it's after we introduce, right?
Yeah, there just has to be 30 days in between when we give it to the county and when you adopt it.
Oh, okay, all right.
So if you wanted to adopt it at the September meeting, we would just want to make sure we sent it to the county at least 30 days before the date of the September meeting.
No, I think the conversation today is whether we introduce it at the September.
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
It it would mean that we probably wouldn't be able to adopt it until November.
Okay.
Anyway, we have 90 days, right, for a comment period for anything that's introduced. Am I making that up? Isn't that
Have to vote on it within 60 days of
60
introduction.
days? That's right, 60 days.
But you can always reintroduce to.
You can reintroduce it, right? So it's
That's true. That's true.
kind of irrelevant.
So I think Robin and I are proposing that we introduce the language that's been shared with you. Sounds like, Ron, you are comfortable with
Okay.
it as well. And so the question to the rest of you, Steve, Debbie, and Shannon, is does that make sense to you? Anything you want to weigh in on that front?
I have a question. I think yes, I think this all makes sense and it's great work. Thank you, thank you. But why wouldn't we add the soil testing business now? Why are we putting that off?
Because we don't know how many soil tests. I would like to get a little bit more expertise on it before we put it in the code. I was talking about 3 soil tests. The logic being that many of our properties are in hills and it's unlikely that there's the same infiltration high on a hill as there is lower down the hill. But I mean, that's just we need data on that. We can't just create the code.
Yeah, I think that would be my view. I don't fully understand it, frankly, all elements of it. And I think the LIDC study, we had a really good, Matt has set up regular catch-up calls with them, arguably open to all council, right, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
And he's, that data set, the GIS information, the mapping system, all of that will just make us so much smarter. And it might be worth waiting for that to come through. And I think there's a plan to have them present to the council at the next council meeting, if council working session, if it makes sense to Steve.
So I guess I don't know, can you just maybe explain to me how it all works? So if I'm a builder, I buy this property, and instead of going to Montgomery County, I come to Somerset first and show them my plans, and then what? Can you just walk it through what the step is?
We are saying that you would seek a permit from our town before it is sought from the county, or at the same time, or within 7 days after you file it with the county. So that keeps it within bounds. That's sort of how we materialize concurrent review.
So then, okay, so then what happens is, I submit my plan and the county has issued a waiver or whatever for stormwater runoff. Does that mean then that the town won't accept that?
So with concurrent review, the applicant will have to comply with both county and town standards, and will most often do so by preparing one plan with both sets of requirements in mind. And we see this in the town of Chevy Chase quite often. They may have a waiver from the county, but still have to comply with the town of Chevy Chase requirements for on-site retention. And so even though they have that county waiver, they're still designing their system with what rain tanks or other devices are necessary to achieve the town requirements. So the same would happen in Somerset. They'd have to calculate what's going to be the on-site storage volume necessary to capture the new runoff from the storm event that generates the 2.6 cubic feet of rainfall.
Right. So to put it simply, the county doesn't care, but the town does. So you still have to do it. Is what it is.
And Shannon, we basically are moving ourselves up the timeline of the process. We've been coming much later in the process.
And so then I guess the question becomes then, the soil question comes in then, as far as what does because the county's 1 inch or 2 inch might not be the same as ours at 2.6. And
right.
the soil,
Well, ours won't necessarily be 2.6, but the point is we need to do accurate soil testing so as to come up with a real number. The county is not doing accurate soil testing.
right. So then we do it. So at the same time, then we're going to have, I mean, I agree that hopefully we can put that soil test in at the same time as all of this, because, if we don't do it like that, then I feel like people could be managing to different amounts of what that runoff amount would be. And so then, we might not have those same numbers. But then are we as a town going to say that we're not going to accept any additional runoff?
We are saying you need to manage 100% of roof runoff up to 2.6 inches.
But there's more, I feel like there's more to it than just roof runoff, isn't there?
Yeah,
No,
well,
there's a
is.
lot more to it. There's a lot more to it. Yeah. Yeah.
The issue is, and this is where the intensive tutorial came in for me, it is very much more difficult to capture runoff from ground-based impermeable surfaces than roof-based impermeable surfaces. So that's why you want to go high on rooftop runoff, because it's going to compensate for not capturing runoff from ground-based impermeable surfaces.
Exactly.
And that's really what it's about.
Because this one, the one next to me, they captured all of their roof runoff, but there
that
is
that
all
was the point I
sorts of
was making.
patios and other things that they're not capturing. So I guess I just don't understand. So it says like, and I can't even read this, like, it
Shannon.
doesn't cover a patio, the pool, another roof area, the separate garage area, a driveway, there's all this other stuff that's there. So they did technically cover their roof runoff.
That's what I was saying earlier. The feedback we got from OIPA is that when when builders and homeowners are attempting to meet the county requirement on managing stormwater, they end up largely meeting the roof runoff requirement because that's easier to achieve. And so our ordinance will probably achieve greater coverage of that reality. So we will probably move things forward minimally, not significantly, but we will move them forward. That was the lesson we learned, because as you're pointing out, when they attempt to meet that requirement, they are largely doing on the roof runoff. Now we are going one step further. So we're doing that, but we're also saying permeable landscape. I don't know the specifics of this one and how he got around that and how close it is, but that is likely to have major, I can probably name 2-3 properties in town where that would have made a significant difference.
Well, but I think that it's also like patio, like anything hardscapes, like not just a driveway, but patios as well.
Yeah.
Because this house had a huge patio that doesn't accommodate any of that runoff, as well as a driveway. But so, I mean, really for this house then next door to me, they wouldn't have been able to build the house like that because their permeable driveway is too close to the house.
Yeah, I think we are hoping that for a house like that, the concurrent review, the pre-meeting, this ordinance would lead to a design change, and in a timely manner. But that if you are measuring with that house, you might miss many other homes that would actually do a better job on roof. You see, you're using that one example, but there might be many other constructions that would be positively impacted from a stormwater perspective from this ordinance. And keep in mind, we are not saying
a builder, or a developer. So if you're a person that bought this, that you have to live with these neighbors, but these builders don't care.
Yeah. But
Another
remember, this is not the end game.
right. Another way to approach it, and
This is the
again,
first
I
step.
know the Stormwater Committee is considering this, and it was brought up by the OIPA guys, is DC is beginning to introduce the idea of total allowable impermeable surface in a yard as a concept as well. So if you have total allowable impermeable surface of 40%, then everything else has to be permeable above that. It can't be a complete stormwater drainage design but it can be a helpful addition. And if that were in place, Keating could not have had the design that he had because he had 51% coverage.
Yeah, some of my clients do that as well. They call it a maximum non-vegetative surface coverage requirement. Martin's Additions has one in the front yard, to limit the size of driveways and parking pads, walkways.
Thanks.
I think that might be a great thing for the Stormwater Study Committee to consider and recommend. So I'd like to, if I can.
May I quickly respond?
Yes.
To Shannon? I really like your questions and your pushback, Shannon. So I think it really comes down to, do we take this interim step, move the needle forward, or do we go back to the drawing board and create the foolproof intervention? I'm inclined to do the former. So we, as Robin put it, we put ourselves on the map. We take a step forward. I think it's going to be net positive. It's not going to,
Yeah, I'm all
take us
for
back,
anything that can happen that can help, change the outcome of, a house like my neighbors.
Yes.
But, I just don't want to, I just want to make sure that
we're not giving up on that.
If we're doing something, it's better than nothing.
I agree.
But,
I really think we will all benefit from LIDC's presentation in the September session. I think we will have a lot more information, lot by lot.
Yeah, because like you guys saw Alexandria, like those poor streets in Del Rey are like, I don't want that to be our streets eventually. I mean, they're just flooded.
Yeah, well, I believe Tropical Storm Fred is hitting us on Wednesday. Let's just wait to see what happens there.
Yeah.
And
But that
President
is the
Circo, may I
question,
make one
Shannon.
more quick comment on soil
Yes.
borings that may, really quick, to the extent it helps you, Councilmember Barr. So the town of Chevy Chase code doesn't specify how many tests are necessary. It just says you have to submit with your application results of soil tests justifying your proposed plan. So when you think about how many tests should be compelled, when and where, I share with you the issues that have come up in the town of Chevy Chase. Sometimes there may only be one test or two tests, and when the applicants seek a variance before the water board says, well, you did two in the backyard, why didn't you do one in the front yard as well? And sometimes they'll say, well, because they're expensive, $1,000 a pop, and we're not building anything over there. So cost and location are issues that come up all the time.
Right. I think the members of the Stormwater Committee here, they've heard that too, and that can be built into their discussions.
All right, thank you.
Steve, I
Okay.
would love for us to, however, consider the non-variance process at the next working session. Only because Ron has done some great work for us to think through. Even if we end up not taking a step forward, it might be worth looking at that at the next working session, not as part of this, as
Yep.
Robin put it. Yeah.
I think that's a great recommendation. Thank you very much, Kabir. And we'll add it into the work session for next month to talk about. I like the idea of creating a dual path process that can encourage what we want, as opposed to just after the fact try to manage or punish issues. So my understanding where we're at is we'll be introducing this proposal, this interim proposal recommended by the Stormwater Study Committee as adjusted by council members at the September meeting. We'll have some more discussions. We might want to consider having a town forum in conjunction with Stormwater Study Committee over the next month or two also. But this is exciting to be moving ahead. Next item, completely different topic, town pool parking lot safety. Matt, have you had a chance to identify any options for some subject matter experts to help us tackle this?
I don't have anybody to actually recommend tonight. I spoke with a couple of firms that I had talked to last year, actually, when we had looked into this. And part of the reason we had deferred it at that time is because I don't think we were very confident with the proposals that were sent in. I also talked to somebody that I know that's done traffic and safety consultations with some of our neighboring municipalities, but they said that they weren't really right for this. So I had a conversation today actually about with basically a member organization for traffic engineers to see if they had any members in our area that might be interested in doing kind of a one-off just site review with us. And I was given a couple of names. So I'll be prepared to at least offer an update on some firms that I'll talk to at the next council meeting, and hopefully can make a recommendation for you shortly thereafter.
Okay, it'd be great to move on this so that whatever construction work might have to take place can be done during the off season.
Could I add a point that's beyond public safety actually here, which is that there are 3 parking places at the pool which are particularly dangerous, so that you could potentially be backing onto the pedestrian path with somebody you don't see there, as in a toddler. It would be reasonable to take out those 3 species and replace them with plant beds or greenery. Apart from it being a climate advantage, it really is. It also shrinks the parking lot deliberately under those circumstances to try to encourage more walking or cycling to the parking lot. And so, in other words, it's more than public safety is involved.
There might be a requirement for a number of parking spaces for that pool.
I sincerely hope not, and I imagine that the county would be
Got it.
willing to reduce that requirement given the way that they are moving.
I think we should have,
So I think that's a great consideration, Robin. Well, I'm looking forward to the safety expert recommendations. And then we may, in addition to that, or separate from that, want to consider other environmental moves in the parking lot area.
I think we could, that's a nice idea, but I think we should have Ron check to see if that's even a possibility.
I suspect that the only parking lot,
Mr. Town Attorney, aren't there usually parking lot requirements for public facilities like that?
Yes, yeah, typically there are. I have to look into it to give you specifics.
But the other thing is, it's possible that the parking lot could be expanded on the other side. Take out the ones that Councilor Barr is questioning and add more on the other side.
so more to follow on that. Procurement policy. This is something that Matt has been working on for a while, bringing some of his expertise to bear. Do you have an update for us?
Yes, I have some draft language for you. Just as a background, the charter does address purchases, but in a very nebulous sort of way. It just says that purchases and contracts for the government shall be made by the town manager under the supervision of the mayor. But purchases or contracts involving more than such amount as the council may by resolution specify shall require prior approval of the council, et cetera, et cetera. So currently we don't by resolution have a specific dollar amount at which the council expects or requires competitive bidding for the project. The state of Maryland does have its own requirement for, it's $25,000 though, which seems very high on the scale of our budget. So I looked at kind of what our neighboring municipalities did, and it was a range of $5,000 to $25,000. And both the mode and the median were $10,000. So I wrote it to say 10,000. I said all positions for employment with the town and contracts for materials work or services in a sum exceeding $10,000 annually needs to be established by the council, funded by the council, and advertised on the town website, via email to town residents, on the MML website, and on the state of Maryland's e-procurement website. And then added some language about the extension of contracts. So I think Ron maybe wants to take a look at it, I'm sure, before there's a final version, but I'll be honest, I did steal a lot of the language from Ron's other work previously, so I think we're mostly good there. I think that the big question for the council to consider really is what you want that threshold to be before before we need to go out to bid and receive multiple bids for a project.
Well, and also, this procurement policy is something that I've been wanting for 10 years. And we do want to have laid out the actual RFP sort of policies, and when we go to bid, how we go to bid. Do we want to have any priority given to female or people of color owned companies? All these kind of issues, which are so topical with procurement policies these days. So right now we basically we make it up each time we go. And I want to see put into place some real regulations so that there's no possibility of error
Right.
and no ethics issues.
I suggest that we give the draft policy to the Equity and Inclusion Committee for part of the reason is what Jeffrey is saying. If we're going to do that, there are really two places that you intervene. One is in advertising. Are we advertising to all the groups so that we can achieve equity and inclusion in terms of circulating it appropriately? And the other is in criteria for selection, which is what Jeffrey was mentioning. Do we have criteria on equity and inclusion in the selection criteria?
Yes, and related to that, I don't think we have hardcore evaluation procedures.
That was the first.
Remember, recently when Matt was evaluating different proposals, he kind of formulated it just based on his experience and not on any rules that we have. Remember, he readjusted it afterward.
Yeah, I mean, but RFPs have criteria in them, right? I mean, at least your last one did. So.
Well, the RFP does, but I don't think we have evaluation policies. Isn't that right, Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah. If we wanted to have a standardized, scoring rubric,
Scoring
basically.
system. Yeah. Because Councilor Barr, you're familiar with that when you were working in the federal government, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have I think you have a lot of expertise in this area, and I know you'll be able to go over any final proposal with a fine tooth comb.
Well, I'd like the Equity and Inclusion Committee to look at it. Obviously, I'm liaison to the committee and can contribute there, but I think they should have a read off it.
I
I'm also
completely
excited.
agree. I completely agree.
I wanted to say, Jeffrey and Mayor Slavin, I'm also excited that we are taking steps with the procurement policy. I think this was a thought that occurred to me when we considered the firm for the website development, because I think, Matt, in your review, there was another firm, I believe minority owned, that was very close to the final rating you gave the firm that we contracted with subsequently, and cheaper. And so, I wonder if there's a way we can, could have had a better outcome there if we had a procurement policy in place. And so I'm glad we are taking steps in that direction. Matt, what's the process? So this was like at a high level, and it's focused on the threshold, but this is the threshold at which we will conduct competitive bidding. Is that right? That's where we are, but it doesn't cover all the dimensions of procurement, some of which.
Yeah, that's right. So, I can flesh this out based on the feedback that I'm getting to try to incorporate some of these other things. As Robin said, maybe the Equity and Inclusion Committee in particular would be interested in weighing in. But yeah, as is, it's really a one-page policy resolution that covers kind of a threshold and some advertising requirements.
So on your specific question and recommendation for the threshold to competitively bid. So not all dependents of procurement, but just on that question, I can't anchor this reaction in anything, but 10,000 seems low to me. And you said 25,000 seemed high to you. So I'm wondering how we arrive at a clear picture here that is not based on averages. You know, if I don't know if MML has a recommendation. I'm struggling to anchor. I mean, in your table on page 2 or 3, town of Chevy Chase is 25K. I don't know what's the size of their annual budget.
Well, it's bigger than ours, but
Yeah, I can't anchor it because 10 seems you know, there could be things you're contracting that don't require competitive bid at that level.
well, 10 to me,
What?
10's high, but I think definitely consult with MML.
Yeah, that's what I think. It would be good to get some feedback from ML, and maybe it's based on your direct experience. Look back 2 years, you know, at what level you needed to contract out, at what level you didn't, you know, vendors could be hired without contract. That could be a useful data point.
Sort of related to that, would this policy have gotten in the way of fixing the pool pump?
Well,
No,
actually, that's a good.
Yeah,
So-
there's exceptions for emergencies, right, Matt?
How quickly can we grant the exception in this policy? What do we do?
Yeah, I think that
I think that's a different dimension, right? That's a budget approval.
No, but I
Right.
think that that's written into procurement policies when it's an emergency.
Well, why would it be
yeah.
part of procurement?
It is a procurement, that's why.
Procurement.
Oh, I see. But isn't it an existing management contract where a service is being offered, right? It's a
You're
budget.
writing other
towards-
exceptions in as you speak. It's a procurement. We're spending.
At
money.
a technical definition, but we have a contract with American Pool. They're
But-
offering us services.
But they don't, but
You would still, well, that's fine. You would still
that's not,
consider
but that
that.
that wasn't in the contract anyway.
Okay.
That wasn't in the contract.
well, that's good feedback though, that it maybe should be clear when we are procuring labor materials under existing contracts that that's not applicable. And the other thing I thought of is, you know, there might be instances when there really is sort of single source, you know, it's a single source product that we might want to make an exception for, like when if we bought streetlights from Pepco, for example, it doesn't make sense to go out to bid and receive multiple bids and knowing there's only one person that can do it for you. So that's helpful.
This is really complicated stuff, and whatever we come up with is important as a baseline. And then in the future, when there are issues, it can be amended. But for now, it's way too loosey-goosey.
And in
And
terms
in the end, a lot of time is wasted.
another quick feedback before you hear from others, in terms of the rating, we don't want to be prescriptive on, you know, each type of rate, but maybe there's some basic points. Like there are points for minority owned or from a diversity perspective, there are points for level of experience. There's certain points system that is widely applicable and is a useful guiding tool for you for a more technical rating mechanism that you come up with for each instance.
Yeah.
Would be my thinking.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why we want the Equity and Inclusion Committee to have a go at it, to see what they recommend on that.
We don't need a committee to tell us to focus on diverse candidates, but that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Well, that's helpful feedback. So I'll kind of go back to the drawing board and take another bite at the apple and bring it back to you all at the next work session then.
one thought here is this an internal policy? I mean, or is this a code change somehow?
So the charter, as Matt said, the charter provides the council can establish regulations regarding procurement. So you don't have to put it in the code. The
Okay,
charter-
I'm just thinking of simplification. So if we don't have to put it in the code, we can maybe discuss this one more time and come
No-
to consensus on something that generally seems to work. And then we can see how it works in practice, and then we can modify it as we
Well,
see fit.
remember, Mr. President, with regulations, we also have a process for passing regulations.
Well, we'll still have to vote on it, right, in the regular
Well, it's
council
the same-
meetings.
Basically, the same process is when you decide you want to have the policy, then you have the town attorney draft it. It has to be
Okay.
introduced.
But we don't have to go through the bother of updating the town code on the
Correct.
website.
Correct.
So some savings.
Well,
I'm just
you
trying
want-
to,
You want to put it on the website, of course, but anyway. But yes, that's,
but separate. Okay, thank you very much. Good discussion, couple of items of new business. Tennis court awnings, Shannon, you brought this up. Perhaps you could just give us a brief background on why the tennis committee wants them and maybe what they've explored for options and costs.
Yes, so the tennis committee would like to have awnings that are placed over the two benches on both sides of the courts so that the people can have a little bit of shade if needed when it gets very hot. And so they have explored a company that it looks like it's $550 per awning. And it just hooks onto the chain link that goes over the bench. And so that would be a total of $1,100 for the awnings. I believe that it is not in their budget for this year, I think.
That's right.
And so, perhaps this is something that we could look at and see if we want to incorporate it into their budget for next year. And since the timing is so far out anyway, like just to have it ready for, after winter, perhaps.
Well, the
And,
next budget starts July, right, or June? I always forget.
Starts July 1st.
July 1st. Oh, it's close.
Oh, so they don't have any money until next summer, July?
That's right.
Oh,
but the council could decide that
Could
this
approve.
needed during this fiscal year and they can appropriate it, but they have to move money around. You would have to move money
Right.
around.
My personal preference would be to wait to see what sort of income tax revenue the town receives in the November distribution from the state. But the council could just decide to do it.
But harking back to the recent discussion, this is also a procurement issue because that's one, the committee made a recommendation about one specific product, but
That's a good
perhaps
point.
there are other options. Perhaps there are better options. I don't know.
Well,
But we don't have so since we don't have a rule, since we have no procurement policy about things like this, it's really up to whatever the manager or committee recommends and the council decides. But perhaps there should be a process where the council puts an issue like this out to bid in some way, or asks the manager to explore 3 different options so the council can pick the best one. Maybe there's something cheaper, maybe there's something more effective, I don't know. But I think to just consider, one idea might not be the best way to make the decision.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mayor Slavin, I think what, the process, it's very important that there should, I've noticed over time that there isn't a place for people to get shade on the courts. I mean, if there's no tree cover there, it gets pretty hot. And so I think it's definitely something we should make happen. But in terms of the process, this is now the committee recommending that we consider this. They have done some initial investigation. Now I think it is in the town manager's court, no pun intended, to investigate
Good pun.
and give us scenarios and options, and maybe there's something that could be semi-permanent and something more sophisticated that could be considered as well, as part of the process.
I mean, right. I don't think a lot of harm is done by tabling it until we have our November figures in, nevertheless. But I do agree with you, Kabir, that I'd worry about whether winds would tear those awnings off under those circumstances, and how secure are they? And so a little bit more study of it during the next couple of months while we're waiting for our budget might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, not to add more to your plate, your impossibly overloaded plate, Matt, but it'd be great to get a fuller sense of the options.
But I do think we want to be very appreciative that the committee is engaged in this topic and has put a recommendation forward to get the ball rolling.
Agreed.
Yeah, concur.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to be helpful and do some legwork.
I think one good thing, Shannon, that we can report back to them too is that I think it was like a 14 or 16 week lead time on the awnings that they had recommended. So even if we moved today to approve those exact ones, they still wouldn't be here until the dog days of summer were over anyway. So we're not really losing anything by doing some due diligence on this.
Agree.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all around. Next item is Kabir's proposal for the town to stand up a revenue committee, which perhaps more traditionally for a government organization we call the Ways and Means Committee. Kabir, can you just give a little bit of background on, I guess, what inspired you, or what you hope to get out of this for the town?
Thank you, Steve. Actually, like all things, I was inspired by Robin on this one as well. Basically, I'm wondering if we can more systematically investigate non-tax revenue, an emphasis on non-tax revenue opportunities for our town. And we do it anyway. We do it with, for example, the pool rental for events, or when we leverage the space, the town hall, around the town hall. But could we do it much more systematically? And that was at the highest level, the motivation. And Robin had ideas in a Town Journal article as well for ways in which we could, increase revenue or rationalize fee revenue in the town. And so I wondered, we have some fantastic residents who have, managed businesses and P&L statements and have can kind of contribute to the thinking on this process. And even though I can't believe I'm recommending yet another committee, I figured it would be great to leverage those minds and organize this process. Now we could go further. We could rationalize fee. Sorry, Jeffrey, one last comment.
Okay.
There's also sort of existing fee structures for various services. We could rationalize that. So that was the motivation behind it. It wasn't necessarily all revenue, but with that focus on non-tax revenue.
Okay,
Jeffrey,
so
what's your
let me
view on
weigh in now. So first of
Yeah.
all, as everyone knows, it's per our code, it's up to the mayor to establish committees and recruit members, and then all this is approved by the council. So when Councilmember Kumar first raised this idea to me, I was thinking, oh, it's so hard to get people. Do we really need another committee? Can't the budget committee do that? But then in thinking about it and admiring his persistency and then discussing it with our town manager, and then also looking at the way the Congress operates. The budget committee in the Congress, like our budget committee, basically gives advice on the budget and the process for the budget and what have you. But it doesn't, its function isn't really to advise the council on taxation and revenue raising matters. And that's what in Congress, as you all know, since you're all students of the Congress, that's what the Ways and Means Committee does. And so now in thinking about it and listening to the input from Councilmember Kumar, I think it's a great idea. And so I will plan to Matt and I will draft a mission statement, and I will present that to the council at an upcoming meeting. And I will. Do you think we're ready, Councilmember Kumar, to start recruiting members of this committee?
Yes.
Because I know you had some. I know you had some suggestions.
Yeah, I think there will be residents interested in contributing.
Okay, so
now that we are moving forward, we can talk more about specifically who and think through that.
Okay, good, because I was thinking that we don't really have a mechanism right now where citizens can make recommendations on our tax rates for our property tax, for our personal property tax, and one of the functions of the committee could be to do research on things like that and see what the rates are in other towns and bring that information to the council when the council votes on those rates every year. And I really think it's a great idea. The more and more I thought about it.
Yeah, as I mentioned,
Thank you.
Thank you. My thinking was on the non-tax side, but I appreciate what you're saying as well. I think that it would be great to create a process on that front, and these are interlinked, obviously. So I think that makes sense.
Because I think it's important that the council have as much information as possible when they're making decisions on tax rates.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's good to have a committee to back that up. So thank you.
So I just to make sure I know my marching orders. So I'll touch base with the mayor to get a draft charter, and maybe then I'll share that with you Kabir, and then we'll kind of have that ready to go for discussion at the September work session.
Is that how you want to do it? That sounds good to me. Is that okay, Mr. President?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have the proposal ready to be discussed at the September work session, and we will start recruiting potential candidates for nomination.
Great.
Good. It seems to me, depending on how on the charter, this might be a permanent committee, or they're just meeting frequently to look at various issues, or it might be a very focused short-term committee. But
No, I think it should. I think it should be a permanent committee, just like the
it needs
budget.
to be a permanent.
I mean, there's a
Okay.
permanent role of advising on what the property tax rate should be.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Right.
that's permanent.
I
Okay.
think it'll be a very exciting opportunity for some residents who really enjoy this topic.
Yep. Okay, speaking of topics, to our next topic is Somerset ambulance coverage. Mr. Mayor, can you give us a little background?
So let me just review a little bit. So this is a topic that we had hoped to address in the orientation sessions, and we never got to it. And the plan was that we would deal with it after everybody was put in office. And as you remember, last August, we had a public meeting with all of the local fire departments. They made presentations regarding their services to the town. And that was to the last council. And then also in the meantime, besides the fact that we have a new council, we also now have a fully functioning public safety committee, and fire and ambulance service is part of their mission. And also in the meantime, one of the members of that committee, Kumar Vaswani, has written a very detailed document, which I think you all received, is that correct, on August 3rd, where he lays out sort of the history of this issue and also some very important questions that need to be answered by both the chief of the Montgomery County Fire Department, the Bethesda Fire Board, and other of the services that serve Somerset. So the real question now, the reason I wanted to put this on the agenda for the work session was, I think before the council decides to take any kind of action, they need to, just like with the stormwater management issue, they need to get a lot more information. So the question that I would like to pose to the council is whether they would like to have a hearing with the Bethesda Fire Board and the Montgomery County Fire Chief Goldstein, or would you rather that the Public Safety Committee does the research? So I leave that to you, Mr. President, now.
Okay. So just to lead the discussion, my initial thoughts are that, I mean, this would appropriately be something for the committee to lead, but I know there are some concerns with the just the committee's engagement with the residents. And this is an important topic, so maybe we should get a little bit more involved. What do folks think?
I think the committee can lead, but I think the council is going to have to take some action, whether it's meeting with the Bethesda Fire Board directly at some point. But the whole council needs to get up to speed on the issues, and Kumar Vaswani has done a very nice job of detailing all of the issues. There are some real concerns there, so it is important to read that material. But I mean, the committee can certainly push further and get some answers to the questions raised there. One of the obvious ones is, why hasn't Bethesda Fire Department taken advantage of the offer from the Bethesda Deputies Rescue Squad of extra help? And maybe they can get an answer to that.
Well, isn't Mr. Vaswani a member of the Public Safety Committee? And so this is effectively a recommendation from the committee?
This came from Kumar, not from the committee.
Not from the committee. But I'm just wondering, do we see it as something representing the collective view of the committee, or we don't? Jeff?
No, it hasn't. No, Kumar Vaswani has been involved with this topic professionally for many, many years, and he prepared a very comprehensive memorandum that outlines the issues and raises a lot of questions that need to be answered before the council decides in what direction they want to go in terms of making any changes or suggesting changes to the fire chief. And also to engage residents. I think most of our residents are not aware of a lot of the concerns that have been raised in this memorandum.
Steve, I don't know. I'm wondering if it makes sense for the committee to take it on. I don't have you were intimating something about the committee, but I don't have a sense of that. This would be sort of natural for the committee to take on and put more meat around it for us to then.
Right, so
consider.
perhaps if we
Oh.
direct the committee to do so.
Yeah. Who is the liaison from the council?
Uh-huh.
Congratulations.
It-
Shannon.
It was me.
I think the issue that is being posed to the council is whether you feel that this is timely enough that you need to, is it urgent enough that you need to get informed of what the issues are so that you can take action right away rather than waiting for the committee to do their research and make a recommendation. I think there's a sense of urgency. That's why we distributed the memo to all of you.
I
to
didn't
see
get it.
how you feel, how you're all representatives of the citizens, and do you feel that it's urgent enough that you need to get involved right now, or do you want to wait until the committee has done some research for you?
I'd like to request that memo again, because I didn't get it.
Yeah. First of all, I want all of the council to have read the memo, and obviously Debbie hasn't because she hasn't seen it. And because it's important that we're all on the same page, we all know
Yes.
what the issues are. I still feel, though, that although it is an important and urgent issue, that the Public Safety Committee can act quickly. And I think a recommendation from the Public Safety Committee to us on whether they want us to meet directly with the Bethesda Fire Board is really what I'm looking for.
So Rob, are you suggesting that we formally ask the Public Safety Committee whether or not we should have that meeting?
Yeah. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of your question on urgency, I mean, if it's not available at night, the ambulance service on any weekday, that's a pretty big deal. And
but there are
so-
two other services that cover us that, and so it is bad. It's not as bad as it sounds.
Okay, so then clearly, I think that kind of information from, Mr. Vaswani and the committee would be helpful for us to then take the next step, because reading the memo, I would think it's pretty urgent if there's no service available. But if if it's important, but something that we can live with, and it's not, given also the COVID concerns and what's happening, then I think it might be useful for the committee to act on these recommendations. It would be my view, and then come to us with a specific proposal on what we should do.
As with the other committees, I would like to have the Public Safety Committee tackle its responsibilities, have some discretion in their role, and provide us with timely recommendations. So maybe we need to ask them, indicate that we've become aware of this issue, and we would like them to investigate it, assess it in short order. Is that something, Mr. Mayor, that we can do? Is that
Yes.
appropriate for the
Yes,
council
I
to give
think
that type of direction?
if that's the direction you want to go, that
Yeah, that's absolutely.
it's your collective, it's whatever you all, it's whatever you all think is important. How you want to go about what information you need before you, because there are some decisions similar to with the 5G, similar to with Thrive 2050, I think it'll be very powerful if you weigh in as a council in making some firm recommendations to the Bethesda Fire Board, for which we have a representative that's appointed by that's approved by the five of you. And then also how you want to approach the fire chief with your recommendations. Any recommendations you might have. But since not all of you have had the opportunity to read the memorandum, I think, as Councilmember Barr says, everybody needs to read it before you decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, an ideal outcome here would be the committee gives us, a draft memo that we as council jointly send to the fire chief and others relevant here, that sort of lays out what we want, the resolutions we want, like the staffing resolution. But right now, I don't think we have all of that information to be able to do that. And it'd be good to get that from the committee.
So in terms of timeline, would we want to have the Public Safety Committee give us and the town an update at the regular council meeting in September? Or do we just want to ask for some sort of electronic communications before our next work session?
Maybe if we put it on the agenda at the working session, then it moves faster.
Okay. Does that seem appropriate to folks, or does anybody have
Yes.
a different recommendation?
I think
Well,
that's good.
I can follow up with the Public Safety Committee and let them know that the council has asked them to look into this and to prepare a memo for the council to consider at the September work session.
Perfect. I like that phrasing, Matt. Ask them to prepare a letter for us to consider. Okay. We're just a little behind schedule, not bad. Ron, can you give us a brief tutorial on ex parte discussions and what we are and are not supposed to do?
Sure. So it's an issue that we covered in the introductory session, but I don't believe I addressed one point, and that's whether on-site inspections of properties are permissible before variance hearings. This is an issue that attorneys have different opinions on. Some will say council members should not visit the site before a variance hearing because the visit results in the gathering of evidence off the record. And so some attorneys will say, don't do it unless it's scheduled as part of the hearing. I find that impractical, and I find that it is often very helpful for council members to visit the site so that they can visualize the application and understand its impact on neighboring properties. And although council members are acquiring evidence that's off the record, it's easily addressed at the hearing because a council member can say, I visited the site and here's what I saw and here's my impression. And so then those interested parties attending the hearing have the opportunity to rebut if necessary. If the council member were to say, I find that this addition would be looming over the neighbor because there's only so much feet and I observed the sun and what have you, then the interested parties to the hearing do have the opportunity to address what that council member had derived from the site visit. But again, it's just important if you have conducted a site visit to state that for the record and to state what you observed in your impressions so that any ex parte issue is addressable.
Right, because it's brought into the record.
Right. Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions?
Does any council have a question? So I wanted Ron, our town attorney, to again raise this topic because, as you know, we're always interested in protecting all of you and in limiting any liability on the part of the town. And we know that you want to do the best job possible when you are hearing these applications. And so the town attorney is here to protect you. So does anyone have any specific questions?
Well, I mean, I regularly visit the sites because I want to visualize. I mean, it helps me visualize the work. And so I can certainly bring that up during meetings, yes, that I visited the site, sure.
Yeah, I walked by that house on, that we were looking at that variance for, like the day before, just so I could help to visualize it myself. Like, I guess I wasn't like studying it to see, like I wasn't really gathering evidence. I was just looking at it. But I guess for that instance, I would say that I have visualized the house or walked by it, right?
Yeah,
So
I think you
that's
need to
right.
put it.
are
Sorry,
Mr.
Mr. Mayor.
you suggesting that when council members have visited a site before a hearing, that they put that on the record? Is that what you're recommending?
Yes. And that if the visit left them with any specific impression, that they put that on the record as well. If there's anything that they saw that has a bearing on how they're going to decide the case, they should put that on the record.
Okay, well, I think that's very helpful. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, very helpful. Thank you.
That's very helpful, and it's more clear legal advice than we have received on this topic in the past. So I greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure the council members do too.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
My pleasure.
Okay, we've covered all the topics. We just need to set the next work session date and time. Does this time slot 5 to 7 generally work for a work session?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
I thought you
Everyone-
decided that you were going to have, I thought, Mr. President, for your schedule, 7 PM was better.
I can generally make a 5 o'clock work. It's just, as you know, sometimes it's a little tight moving from my office to here, but I'm
Okay, because
happy.
I don't want you to have to sacrifice, you're already sacrificing a lot to serve as the president.
Let's-
I didn't want you to sacrifice anymore because I thought you had said that you preferred 7 o'clock meetings.
You know, it's a trade-off. I also enjoy having the evening to relax and spend with my family. So
Okay, fine. I was just checking.
I have a
'cause
question.
I appreciate it.
Steve,
Yes?
would it be easier for you if we made the meeting a little bit after 5, like 5:10 or 5:15?
You know, thank you very much. That 5:15 to 7:15 would probably be ideal for me. Just shifting it by 15 minutes would make my transition a bit easier. Does
Okay,
that
well,
work
does
for
that work
folks?
for everybody?
Works for me.
And I'm looking at September 20th. Monday, September 20th for our next work session.
Works.
Well, it's my anniversary. My husband made dinner reservations that night already, so I don't think I can probably do that, but maybe
Not even with Zoom
Sorry.
FaceTime?
That's okay.
FaceTime and dinner. I don't know.
How about Tuesday, the 21st?
We have been married a long time, so it doesn't really matter.
That would be
so-
a clear message on the anniversary.
If you run out of things to say, you can just log into the meeting, say, hold on, honey.
Yeah,
He's generally on his phone all for dinner anyway, so.
How about Tuesday, the 21st for folks from 5:15 to 7:15?
That would work for me.
That's good
Works
with
for
me.
me.
Thank
Thank
you. That's
you.
what we'll do
5:15
around.
on the 21st.
on
Right.
Tuesday. Oh, does that work for you, Ron?
It does.
Good, good. Hey, that worked out okay all around.
Thank you.
Okay,
you,
before we say goodbye, I do want to again state how impressed I am with the level of questioning and the level of preparedness of this council. It's outstanding. And I think that you really learned from your orientation and you're really taking this council to higher heights.
We are trying.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Slavin.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Mayor.
those kind words. Thank you all very much for your time, your service. See you in a couple of weeks at the
Thank you
council
all.
Bye,
meeting.
folks.
Thank you.
Bye.